I killed 8 gophers last year, and a purebred Tennessee walking horse that was looking at me funny.
I think sometimes we take our access to the developers for granted. In no other industry does players have this much access to the developers of the game itself. I think a tweet here kind of shows that perfectly. You have someone who has a DOA profile picture, but they're tweeting at Harada telling them do this for Tekken. Harada brings up a good point. Before making any such requests to the Tekken developers, your icon is DOA. This is just an example of how intense the social media environment surrounding these games are. It's not even exclusive to just Tekken. Mortal Kombat experienced the same thing. They had a new announcement where they showed off some characters, Reptile and so on and so forth, Havoc and whatnot. You had Maximilian and other content creators called that character the wrong name, and then Mortal Kombat fans lost their mind.
Natara? I think so. This is new Natara.
You don't know this one thing, you are not a true fan of Tekken. And once again, this is something that I experienced as well. But also going back to Tekken, talking about the roster, I think the roster is fueling a lot of the negativity. A lot of people were still mind blown that Shahid was chosen as a character to stay on the roster and all others were shunned. Eddy being one of the characters that everyone's focusing on. There was one person who added Harada after seeing leak and said, I swear, if we don't get Eddy, I will hit Harada with a burning hammer. This is not something you should do. This is not something to do. Remember when I said we get way too comfortable with adding the developers? In my videos, I try to explain the reality of the situation. Not every character can be popular, and sometimes a popular character will be DLC. This is just the nature of gaming, and tweets like this is not how you go about changing it. Harada put out a long response to this person. When people make silly threats, I and everyone at the FGC suffer. The following loses. 1. The event operator overreacts and increases security, which increases the operating costs and expenses. 2. Company founders, board members, and lawyers don't like to be intimidated. No one does. Don't make threats. No one does. So they asked me to cancel inclusions in the game. You see that? You threaten Harada and he's not going to be walking around combo breaker. 3. If the person making threats uses the word we instead of I to represent fans, the probability of 2 aforementioned disadvantages occurring is increased. You guys can pause and read all of this, but Harada's making some good points. We take it for granted that he shows up at every single tournament that he can. I'm all for criticizing game decisions. I'm all for saying the heat system is, kind of cheap, the chip damage is too high, the matchmaking needs to be improved. I'm all for criticizing the game. But I think you cross the line when you start making threats and stuff like this. This reminds me of another incident back in Tekken 3. Harada tweeted about it. A Li Xiaolan main was angry that the character wasn't included and sent Harada a razor blade in an envelope. When Harada went to open the envelope with his finger, that razor blade would have tore his finger to shreds. That kind of stuff is unacceptable, no matter what. Another thing that has a lot of people upset is the new character. After doing a lot of research into the Peruvian culture, the lore, I like that character so much more. But a lot of people don't. I did a poll. Do you like Raven and Azazina? There was a lot of people in the comment section who was like, I like Raven, so I voted yes, but I do not like her. You also have people who's comparing Azazina to Street Fighter. They had a character reveal as well, AKI. This is a character everyone was looking forward to, and the reveal, the teaser, was pretty good. This had fighting game fans drooling. When I look at the character comparisons that's being made, Azazina and AKI, I think this is just a bigger flaw in the Tekken character development process. There's a tweet that was reposted to Reddit that says no hate towards Azazina, but I would swap her and all the Tekken 7 newbies for someone sick as AKI. Tekken is severely missing a sadistic femme fatale. The closest they have is Anna and Zafina. But I do think this brings up a greater flaw in the Tekken character development process. And in order to show you exactly what I mean, I need to show you a tier list that I put together. So I have this tier list here. I separated the roster from characters who have good intentions to complicated intentions to bad intentions. Now, of course, we can argue the specifics like Bruce, Armor King, but what I really wanted to just point out is like, we have so many good characters, so many characters who want to save the world. Raven, Master Raven, Azazina, Bruce, Leroy Smith, Claudio, Zafina, Zhao Yu, Asuka. Like, even if you compare the main character's team, how many people are on Team Kazuya who arguably want to control the world, who wants to eliminate everyone who opposed him? So far, Jack, Kazuya, and it's Nina. 3 characters. How many allies does Jin Kazama have? I think this is the real problem with Tekken. Only having good characters who want to save the world and not really selfish characters who have their own motives, it's kind of limiting in the story that you can tell. The final thing that I want to mention, I talked about this before, but it's the faces of the characters. The male characters have a lot of wrinkles, have a lot of, scars and bruises and freckles and dimples and all this stuff. But the female characters, flawless. Every single one of them. Flawless. I'm really interested to see what a character like Lita looks like, who literally has a scar over her face. Beauty is considered so much more when you're talking about a female versus a man. I think the biggest example of this is Raven and Azazina. These 2 characters were revealed at the same time and they look like they're from totally different games. It's kind of bizarre really how much more detail Raven has.
This reaches sort of like somewhat DOA levels. Man, why don't any of the female characters' faces move that much? Like, what is going on? Because all the male characters sort of do have a lot of really expressive shit.
This is why game development is so hard. This is why creating a roster for a game is so hard, because every single character, especially when you release them or reveal